Okay, so here we have a topo map, and it shows a couple of streams, shows the ocean. So this right here is the shoreline. That's a 0, okay? So 0 feet above sea level. And then if I'm trying to figure out elevations, there's always going to be some benchmarks. This is 250. So if this is 0 and this is 250, you can start to work out and try to figure out. You can take some guesses. 10, 20, 30 foot. That doesn't get you to 250. If you go by hundreds, that won't either. 100, 200, 300, that doesn't make sense. Try different numbers. So this would be 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. So this would be 300. So where this red dot is right here would be something between 250 and 300, maybe 275. This topo map here is another that shows elevation, okay? This has a different feature when you look down here when this disappears. It's hatcher lines or hatch marks. That means that this is a depression. So this is a pond. Ponds don't start out at 0 like the ocean does, because the pond could be up in the mountains, okay? But if this is 50, and this is 100, and this one happened to tell us that the contour interval is 10 meters. If you look below the map, you see 10-meter contour interval. That means 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You don't have to try to guess, okay? Now you have to remember that anywhere on this line right here is going to be 40 because it's below the 50. So this is 40, 40, 40, 40. Everywhere on this line is 40 feet above sea level. If you can trace it on the line, it connects equal values, okay? And so like this spot right here, this is kind of a flatter spot. It's in between the 50 and the 60. I would call that 55. Okay? The top of this hill, I know that it's not 110 because there'd be another line there. So I would call that maybe like 108. This topo map here, this is an island. This would be a cone-shaped island. It would form kind of like a volcanic looking island, because you can see that these are almost circular in nature. So when this is a circle type shape, that means that this is all 1,000 feet, and as you go up, this is all 2,000 feet. So our interval must be 1,000 feet here. It's going up pretty steep if it's going up that many feet per line. So it is a real high interval. So if I was to pick a spot, say right there, what would you make a good guess for that elevation? If this is 4,000 and this is 5,000, I would say that's about 4,500. And then the top of this mountain can't be 6,000 because there's not another line. So maybe, 5,500, 5,800. The highest it could be would 5,999. If you're looking at a topo map of a lake, it's called a bathymetric map that's actually showing depths instead of heights. So this is Lake Durant in the Adirondacks. This is a good fishing spot right over here because the water is really deep and then it gets pretty darn shallow right there. So when those lines are closer together, it's changing elevation a lot steeper. You can see this part of the lake is much less of a rapid change. It's a much shallower part of the lake and it's not as steep. So if you were in a boat right there and you jumped off, you'd be in about 7 feet deep of water. If you jumped off right here, the water would be 8 feet deep. If you were right here, the water would be 8 feet deep. If you were right there, it'd be about 9 feet deep. Okay, so anywhere on this line, if you were more than 6 feet tall, if you're 6.5 feet tall, you could walk on this line. It's an imaginary line, but if you follow that line, if you were really tall, you'd be able to have your head above water the whole time you walked. But if you started walking this way, you'd be getting deeper. Okay, it's only a little over 10 feet deep in this part of the lake. But then over here, it's a little bit deeper than 20. This is an isoline map of snowfall in New York State. So snowfall in New York State, you pick a location here, anywhere on these lines, it's going to tell you how much snow fell. So right about here, you're in between. What is this line here? You just have to trace it back. That looks like it's about 40. Okay. If this is 40 and this is 44, this area right here in between would be about 42. Okay. So this area right here in between 36 and 40 would be about 38. This area right here in between 36 and 32 would be about 34. And then this area over here is all less than 32, but it's more than 28. Since we're going by fours, that's our contour interval. If it was 28, you'd see another line over there somewhere. And then this is another isoline map for snowfall. This is the kind that we usually see. Side note, when the wind is blowing over the lake in not a north to south direction, but over the long part of the lake, it'll pick up moisture and you get lake effect snow. And as that snow falls, it'll taper out as you get further away from the lake. You can see here that Rome is just about on this line, which is the boundary between 1 to 3 and 3 to 6. So Rome would be looking at about 3 inches of snow. But West Rome would be looking more like 5 inches of snow. 6 inches of snow would be right about there. And then this is the 6 to 12 range. And right on that line, it's going to change from 12 to more. So these are just isolines that are drawn too. And when you color them in, it helps to give a real nice visual for how much snowfall somebody could expect.